Can you hear me? Hello. Welcome, everyone, to the Hispanic Patriot podcast, a weekly podcast broadcast deep behind enemy lines. We're having a little bit of a trouble. Is our intrepid
Not at all. Welcome to the Hispanic podcast, everybody. A weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location here in the heart of the great state of Colorado. My name is Nicholas Razzo, and without further ado, I present to you all our fearless patron, Hugo.
All right, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. It's a Saturday morning, unusual time for our show, but we are wanting to get this show in for this weekly cycle. On Thursday, yours truly was a moderator at the Colorado Hispanic Republican Colorado GOP Forum, Chairman Forum, and we had 5 candidates who attended. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We've got a full plate of topics, but we begin with a really horrific news angle right now because one of our own in the Colorado GOP has been arrested, and we want to talk a little bit about that. So let's listen in on the report.
New tonight, the Weld County GOP chair is facing charges stemming from accusations he tried to buy sex from a minor. The Larimer County Sheriff's Office announced the arrest of 24-year-old Hunter Rivera tonight. They say he was taken into custody yesterday during an operation targeting child predators. The Sheriff's Office says investigators posed as minors selling sexual acts online, and Rivera was one of 2 men who went to the agreed-upon location. Rivera now faces several felony charges. As he awaits his court date on Thursday, there are already calls for his resignation. In a statement, House and Senate Republicans said there is no room in their party for those types of charges. They called them, quote, sickening, horrifying, and beyond reprehensible. We reached out to the Weld County GOP, and we're still waiting to hear back.
Well, that's an interesting retort. They reached out to the Weld County GOP and have yet to hear back. One would think that the Weld County GOP would be on top of this and be responding to requests by the news media. Keeping silence is not a good look, in my opinion. This is something that should be met head on. I am conflicted in the sense that we have this young man that so many had great hopes for. At 24 years old, he was considered by some to be a rising star in the state party, and now this has hit the airwaves, and needless to say, regardless of the outcome, there's so much to say about this, and without casting, like some are claiming that some of us are being judgmental, etc. This type of a crime is not one that you treat with kid gloves. If you got caught in a sting and showed up as a result of a sting to garner sexual favors from a minor, that to me is egregious enough. I mean, yeah, we have to say alleged, we have to say innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, but when you show up with like some like random, I don't mean to be stereotypical or anything. You show up with some random like Arab dude that you don't know. It's like because that was another person that was arrested with Hunter. People saying innocent until proven guilty. I totally agree with that, but the picture fits the picture.
Are you there? We're breaking up there. Okay, so what I'm not certain of is on the sting, whether or not the other individual was, quote, with Hunter, or if they were two separate stings. I'm not certain, but either way, it's not a good look, and we have to take this very seriously in light of everything that's taking place in our society right now. And as Republicans, we stand for the rule of law, we stand for the Constitution, but you know, we can't stand beside someone who would do something like this. I'm
No,
sorry.
and we can't at all. And frankly, I don't mean to be like rude or do anything, but there is a divide here.
We apologize, folks.
We are not the same Republicans as Hunter Rivera. Like, that just has to be said. I mean, Hunter was widely considered to be a RINO, to be considered someone who was very close with Barb Kirkmeyer, that kind of part of the party. And I don't mean to, again, cast aspersions on anybody besides just Hunter, but this is the kind of group that we don't consider ourselves to be part of. When I think of myself as a Republican, I don't think of
Yes, Hunter was very much a part of the coup crowd that
myself.
tried to oust our duly elected chair a couple of years ago, and so we definitely are not the same. And you know, it should be said and noted that this guy was a former legislative aide for Barbara Kirkmeyer, Senator
Right.
Barbara Kirkmeyer. Now, some are crying foul and saying we shouldn't be labeling people by association, but this person, this Hunter Rivera, was under Barbara's wing, so to speak. She brought him up into the ranks and
He did. It's
basically
just a fact.
helped install him as the Weld County chairman. So let's not try to pretend that there's no connection there with between Barbara and Hunter Rivera. And the other thing that stands out in my mind is I haven't seen any statement from Barbara Kirkmeyer or any of Hunter's circle, let's just say, circle of influence, condemning anything. They're just their mom. And I don't understand that, because if I had someone that I was closely tied with be accused of something like this, I would be on the air so fast it wouldn't even be funny, because it's something that needs to be called out and should be called out. So some of these people that are on social media saying that, oh, we should not be judgmental, oh, that, you know, we need to.
I think if there's anything we can be judgmental about, it's pedophilia. Like, I'm sorry to say, I think if there's anything we can be judgmental about, it's that. And it's not even like a political accusation meant to hurt reputation that's clearly false, like what happened with Adam Dorito. Who actually, it should be said, Adam
Well, Adam just came out.
Dorito had
Adam just came out and announced his candidacy for Weld County Chair. We'll see
which
how
I think
that
is
goes.
very
But
hilarious, honestly.
I'm curious to see what the reaction is going to be from the crowd in Weld County that was well aligned with Hunter Rivera, Barbara Kirkmeyer, and all the others who basically perpetrated their own coup in that county and stacked the deck at the last assembly with candidates that they handpicked to become bonus members for the sole purpose of electing someone like Britta Horn. So this is a story that is just broken. So I'm sure there's going to be more details come out as we go along. We will report on it as we see fit and as we are able to give more details about the story. For the time being, suffice to say, this is a black eye on the state GOP, because the left is going to basically use this as a what do you call they're going to use this as a hammer against the GOP.
Yeah,
So
unfortunately so.
and so that needs to be addressed as well. So and then one more point that I want to make, and this is important because it relates to this. State Representative Scott Bottoms, who is running for governor, has been shouting that there is pedophile rings in and around the Capitol, and Barbara Kirkmeyer has laughed it off and basically called him a liar. And now, where is she when her own little puppet has been called out for such a heinous crime?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because again, it's like just on a personal basis. You guys know that we have personal insights here on Hispanic Patriot podcast. I've literally fought with Hunter on Facebook in SEC meetings. Like,
As
me and him
have
have
I.
never been aligned, as of Hugo. So when we say we're not the same Republican,
Yeah, we're definitely not the same
look into
Republicans. And you know, I want to I want to say this also, because I haven't shared it with anyone, but I have a really deep connection to this type of crime, because someone close in my family went through abuse and molestation as a child. And I can tell you that nothing boils my blood more than someone to come to the aid and or defense of someone accused of this type of crime. And I have no compunction in calling people out. And if they want to debate me, if they want to fight me, they picked the wrong person, because I will blast them from here to hell and back.
yeah, no,
I'm
this
sorry.
is something very upsetting. I mean, this is a result of the sexual revolution. People have no morals. People don't think they're going to go to hell if they do this. It's very sad, and that's why when we say we're against the establishment, we're against the rhinos. Obviously, we're not saying all of them are pedophiles. We're not saying that. That we're not casting any aspersions, but they don't care if one of their own commits a crime like that. It gets swept under the rug, and there's no point in reconciliation and penance to these people. It's just, how does this hurt my political career, rather than, oh my goodness, my discernment and judgment to character needs to be improved significantly. We're seeing that at the state house with other stories. We're seeing that elsewhere. It's horrifying, and that's why I think it's not just politically imperative to get rid of these rhinos, it's morally imperative. They don't have the same barriers that we do. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to say it. I'm sorry to
Well,
say that.
I'm seeing some of the commentary on social media from some of these rhinos, some who are still in the state, some who have moved away from the state and feel the need to chime in on everything Colorado after they left and abandoned the state. So I
Funny
don't
how
want to
that
hear
works.
it. I'm sorry. You have a right to move. That's fine. You moved for your own reasons. Just stay the hell out of our politics if you
Yeah, you
move to
left for a
another.
reason.
Yep. So
But
anyway,
the last thing I'll say is that not only did they arrest Hunter, they arrested his neck. His neck was nowhere to be found in that picture, and we hope that Hunter Rivera's neck is found. Maybe it was innocent of any crimes. We don't know. But jokes aside, that's literally the only joke I can make, folks.
well,
That everything else is horrifying. So
honestly, one other point that I want to make is I want to know about this guy he was with. If in fact
yeah, that yeah.
they acted together, or did they come separately as a result of this sting? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
Um,
that's something that I very much, because for those who don't know, if you look at the police report, he's got like a very Arab name. So do we have Arab like grooming gangs like they had in Britain with the Pakistani grooming gangs? Do we have large groups of people in this state or this country doing stuff like this? And if
Well,
so, we need to know about that, because it was
the
very
leader,
odd to have someone like that in Larimer County. All
suffice to
places.
say, the leader of Islam was a pedophile. So
Yes, he was. This is
uh,
factual.
exactly. So
Not hateful.
if you're
Factual.
out there, I'm right here. Come get me.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we're going to segue into the recent debate between Scott Bottoms and Barbara Kirkmeyer, which was on Channel 7, I believe. So we'll be let's listen in on the clip that talks about that, and then we'll do a little bit of commentary on it. So here's the clip.
I was born and raised in Colorado, and my question for you is, I am a lifelong independent that appreciates fiscal restraint. How can you guarantee that you'll focus on actual fiscal responsibility instead of policing bathrooms?
That question for our candidates, because they say they cannot hear.
Why can't we do both? Why can't we do both?
Instead of policing bathrooms, did they really put that question up? Come on.
He said his question, as a lifelong independent who appreciates fiscal restraint, is how can you guarantee that you'll focus on actual fiscal responsibility instead of policing bathrooms? Mr. Bottoms, you'll go first.
Yes, fiscal responsibility starts first with the budget. This is why I vote against it every year. You cannot say it's balanced. It may look balanced on paper, but it is not. It is taking money from places that it does not have the right to take. And then there's 40, 50 bills this year that are coming from gifts, grants, and donations. In other words, they're expecting people to donate $50 million for a bill. This is absolute lunacy. Our budget is totally broken. When I submit my budget, it'll come after the Governor Polis's budget, because the election's after that's submitted. We will cut billions and billions, up to 10 billion, maybe even more than that. And I've already got financial people working on that. We've also, again, I keep coming back to this, but we have to doge the state. There are so many broken things that we are doing that you can look, one of the corruption areas that I've looked at is CHF, that they are giving grants to NGOs that they have no right to do. We've got to stop this.
Ms. Kirkmeyer.
Thank you for the question. First of all, I would just say that pretty much everything Representative Bottoms said is inaccurate. It's not that we need to doge our state. There's not a bunch, there probably is some corruption. There is going to be some fraud. In fact, we've covered.
There might be some side of pedophilia, we don't know.
Yeah. Fraud, but the problem is this administration is one of the worst managed administrations there is. Every single department has management issues. But with regard to the budget, it is the legislative branch responsibility. In fact, it is in the Constitution that they write the budget. And I am one of 6 members who do that, and I sent it across the street to the other 94 members. It is a balanced budget
across the street
in
the same building.
Just because in your checkbook,
When did you know about Hunter Rivera?
Within your checkbook or within your savings account doesn't mean that the budget is not balanced, because it is balanced. There are not hundreds of millions of dollars that are being done in a corrupt manner, that are going from one program to another program. That can't happen. And Representative Bottoms has said on many cases that he's able to cut billions of dollars out of the budget, yet I have not seen one amendment from him that actually cuts anything out of the budget. And in fact, the last budget he didn't even vote on.
Mr. Bottoms, would you like to rebut that? We are getting short on time.
Yes. Yes, I have submitted many amendments to the budget, and she knows that, but she's not in the House, and she's just trying to make it look like something else. But here's the thing, I used this example earlier. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars have been taken from unclaimed property trust fund by those 6 members that is frauding the people of Colorado, that your name is actually attacked. Look, go to the website for the state and look, they are taking your money and they're frauding you out of hundreds of millions of dollars.
And Ms. Kirkmeyer, you were mentioned. We will do one more rebuttal before moving on. Ms. Kirkmeyer.
That is absolutely not true. And if Representative Bottoms would have actually shown up and known about the budget and followed through on the budget, or maybe he looked in through his appropriations, he would have known that there was a bill that went through where we actually cut people who were cut other programs, cut other bills that have been passed in the past, cut those so that they aren't taken from the unclaimed property fund. So it isn't corrupt. We didn't break any laws. And we are following the Constitution and general accounting principles. So we have a balanced budget, and it is not that it's corrupt. Mr. Representative Bottoms, I went back and checked, and in 2024, you didn't have one amendment to the budget. I went back.
Yeah, we believe you, Queen of Weld.
Yeah,
give me
I'm
a
sorry,
break.
but Hunter Rivera is going to be like a millstone around this lady's neck forever now. I'm sorry and deserved. Also, one caveat to the story I want to say, it was a sting. So no children were harmed in the making of that arrest.
Yeah.
But I want to just say,
And
I
this is,
think
well, if you're going to touch
please.
on that point, I want to bring up this rebuttal to that point, and that is, okay, this was a sting. No actual children were involved. However, if he participated in this sting, how many other events has he had that he wasn't caught for? Okay, so I'm not one to be naive enough to believe that this was a one-time thing, and he's just somehow should be I don't know, not exonerated, but given a pass because this was a sting and no children were involved. I want to know how many others he molested in the past.
Yeah, we hope that number is 0, just for the sake of moral and decency. Like, we don't want a political opponent or person that disagrees with us to go this way. I felt very sad when the state senator Democrat lady, whose name escapes me right now, rest in peace, died in a car crash. I was very unhappy to see that. That was horrifying to me. So this is just as equally horrifying. And I don't like it also that I got to say one thing about Barb Kirkmeyer's style of just kind of like this kind of very mean-spirited aunt, just like, oh, that's not true. It's like, you didn't even vote.
Yeah, well, I would say my answer to that, I wish Scott would have replied with, well, at least I don't have an F grade voting record with the Liberty scorecard.
Yes, really.
So, yeah, nothing that comes out. I can't even look at her now without seeing Hunter Rivera's face.
And a lot of people will be feeling the same way.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her come out with a Hunter Rivera T-shirt now.
That'd be funny. Now, it should be said, folks, this story with Hunter literally just broke yesterday. So this is fresh news, brand fresh news, and we covering it today. We will be covering the response to it from multiple politicians across the state as the weeks go on. So please stay tuned and give us a like and subscribe.
Yes, if you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe to the channel, and please donate to help us grow, because this is important stuff, and we feel like we can make a difference with our audience and some other young people who need to hear the unvarnished truth. You know, a lot of places you go to, you get what I would call polished truth, which is basically, warmed over and cooked out to be cleaned up. But we don't do that here. We tell it straight like it is, and let the chips fall where they may. So
yeah, other Republican media groups would just ignore this story, say, oh, it makes us look bad, so we're not going to cover it. We will cover it here because, again, we're Americans first. We believe in our republic 100%, but we are Americans first.
Yep, and we are pro-children. So that's another topic. But getting back to that T-shirt idea, I was referring to, you remember the Che Guevara T-shirt that became so famous among the young left? Well, somehow I picture Barbara Kirkmeyer coming out with a Hunter Rivera T-shirt.
Honestly, all the RINOs should just identify themselves by wearing Hunter Rivera T-shirts. Like, I'm sorry, this is way funnier than it should be. But it definitely, again, you have to understand, after fighting these people for so long, fighting the RINOs in Colorado for so long, and we're seeing it on display here, it is really something that will be talked about, needs to be talked about. And I think one of the biggest things to take away is look at the style of Bottoms versus Kirkmeyer.
Yep.
Look at the style. I want to say, I think that Scott Bottoms has really refined his speaking, has really refined his talking points to speak to the general audience of Colorado.
I agree. And I think, just on that one clip that we saw, I would have to say that Scott is the better candidate. If I didn't know either candidate and I watched that, I would lean towards Scott because of, again, how he was
Same here.
delivering factual data and not trying to hyperbolize and not trying to basically attack his opponent, which instead of answering the question. And I think that Barbara basically is just showing her cards in the sense that she's a part of that cabal at the Capitol, and there's a reason she has an F grade in her voting record. So pay attention to that race, folks. June 30th is primary date. Right now on the Republican side, we have 3 candidates: Scott Bottoms, Barbara Kirkmeyer, and of course the inimitable Victor Marks,
Who was not there.
who was not there. That was very noticeable. So pay attention to that. Why wasn't he there? Well, everybody has an opinion, and my opinion is that he's just a coward. And he knows that if he were to go on any stage with Barbara, with Scott, or any other candidate, he would look foolish. And that's the reason he's hiding out, because he knows he's got no substance, and he knows that he would be exposed for the fool that he really is, and people would change their mind. A lot of the good people now, his little adoring army that he's bought and paid for, those would still remain, but there's a lot of other supporters out there who have jumped on his bandwagon without really digging deep into his history and what he's really about. And I'm saddened about that because I have some good friends that have fallen for that. I've tried to talk to them directly and explain to them why they're making a mistake. So we'll see what happens in the primary, but stay tuned for that. We're about 6 weeks out from actually the ballots are going to be dropping around the second week of June. So anything after that is probably kind of moot because people will have made up their mind. But and then this May 30th, we have a chairman. We have a special election meeting in Buena Vista for the chairman of the Colorado GOP, in which they have 5 candidates. If you haven't seen the forum that we did the other night, go to our website. I'm sorry, not the website. Go to our Facebook page. We have the clip, the link posted there, and you can watch the entire forum and make up your own mind as to which candidate you like.
Brought to you by the illustrious Colorado Hispanic Republicans.
Yes, it was.
And if you missed the event, you missed the free tacos. So you're going to have to make sure to go to the next one.
The tacos were the best part of it.
They were so juicy, I got to say. They were amazingly juicy tacos. Nacho cheese and regular cheese, salsa, everything you could want.
It's nacho cheese.
Nacho cheese and regular cheese we had. We had both. We had preferences. It was amazing. We have choice here in the Republican Party, unlike what Democrats would talk about us.
All right. Let's shift gears and talk a little bit about President Trump's visit to China.
Straight to China.
We have a clip to play, and then we'll discuss a little bit as much as we can, because there's so many moving parts to this issue.
Barry. Michael, you can always read between the lines better than anybody else. You know the Chinese, I would argue, better than anybody else. What's your takeaway from what we saw? Maybe you see something else.
Well, I see 2 things. One is I see the superficial appearance of friendship, relationship. 1784 is when our first American ship came here. Mutual respect. All the things Bill Hemmer is saying are certainly true. I congratulate Bill Hemmer on his profile. He's been doing profiles all around Beijing on the Great Wall and showing pictures of himself 20 or 30 years ago. That's all reality. We can celebrate it. It's good news. But from the point of view of a China expert who's seen these things for 30 years now or more, some really bad news is coming out. First of all, the warning about Taiwan. That never happens. This is the first time I've ever heard a Chinese leader in foreign ministry issue such a severe warning on Taiwan, that if it's not, it's very vague. If it's not handled carefully, then there will be conflict. That's not usually put into the, happy talk at a banquet. The American side is totally silent on that issue, on the issue of Taiwan. The other thing that Chinese did is they used a term that's just almost kind of nasty. It's hard to translate. It's called gao huai in Mandarin. Gao huai. Gao means to screw. Huai means bad. I noticed the translation was by the Chinese side, when they put it into English, it was don't mess it up. We must not mess it up. Well, that's not quite as strong as what it sounds like in Mandarin. So yes, everything's wonderful, big success. Steve Daines did a lot to make this all happen, working with David Perdue as ambassador, and Susie Wiles had a role too. So that's all wonderful. But the other thing that wasn't brought up at all, the reason we're here really, is the Chinese agreed reluctantly to a 1-year moratorium on their export license system to block ring magnets from going to America. That hasn't been mentioned. The time runs out. The moratorium runs out very soon. We're going to be back to a problem where our factories cannot make turbine engines, cars, even the windshield wiper motor in your car requires a little ring magnet. No progress, no mention of it. So we have a lot more to hear, I think, tomorrow.
Right. What do you mean by no mention,
really been
Michael?
happening behind the scenes.
We can't possibly know what they discussed. I mean, it could have been discussed there. You expected to hear that in the speech?
I didn't expect the Chinese to give such a serious warning. Not the banquet speech. You didn't bring it up at the banquet. That would have been impolite. But in the statement...
You're talking about the statement about Taiwan? Do you want me to read it?
I was talking about the magnets.
You want me to read it? It's a
please.
paragraph. President Xi stressed to President Trump that the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. If it is handled properly, the bilateral relationship will enjoy overall stability. Otherwise, the two countries will have clashes and even conflicts, putting the entire relationship in great jeopardy. Taiwan independence and cross-strait peace are as irreconcilable as fire and water. Safeguarding peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait is the biggest common denominator between China and the U.S.
And this was from the spokesperson, Michael.
See, tomorrow morning, China either will or will not send 10 jet bombers around Taiwan. They've been doing this for a year and a half now. Or they'll send, in addition, 10 Navy warships around Taiwan. That either stops. We'll be able to read about it on the Taiwan Defense Ministry website. They put up how many ships and bombers are circling their country. That either stops, which is fantastically good news, or it doesn't, which means we better be very careful in handling the Taiwan issue.
Yeah.
The word jeopardy was in there. Remember that? Place the relationship in jeopardy. It sounds much tougher in Chinese.
Michael, I'll talk to you on radio in a couple hours. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great insight.
Okay, a couple of things that jump out to me. The speaker was talking about this dire warning from Xi Jinping, and I'm sorry, but I take that as a little bit of saber rattling.
It is.
Trying to act tough on his own turf, and then for them to talk about how the Chinese have some warships in the sea, and they're going to fly their jets around Taiwan. But that ignores the fact that we have a super majority, a superiority over the Chinese in naval waters. There's nobody that rivals our Navy and or our Air Force. So for them to act like this is some kind of warning by this despot communist that everybody wants to play nice with, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that.
And I'm not buying it either. As a student of military history, you all know how difficult D-Day was.
What?
Imagine D-Day, but
Yeah.
the Germans are firing V2 rockets at the landing sites. That's what the Chinese invasion of Taiwan would look like. It'd be extremely horrifying for the Chinese to supply such an invasion once it landed, and it would be very difficult for them to take the mountains and hills of Taiwan and the chip manufacturing intact. The Taiwanese would definitely not let the Chinese take that intact. So an invasion of Taiwan would almost destroy their very strategic interest on the island. So that's something we have to say about an invasion of Taiwan right away. It is saber rattling. That's really all it is.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of documentaries, and one was very detailed about the physical aspect of an invasion from China to Taiwan, and it showed so many pitfalls that it would be laughable if the Chinese even thought about invading the island, because they would suffer such mass casualties that they would be retreating in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
That whole perimeter, or not perimeter, that whole shoreline that faces China from Taiwan is so fortified right now that it would take the only thing that could overcome it would be a nuclear attack. And China's not stupid enough to do that. So
right, if Russia hasn't used a nuke or even a tactical nuke in Ukraine yet, China's not going to use a nuclear weapon in Taiwan. It just isn't. The strategic interest isn't there as well.
Yeah, let's listen in. There was another Secretary Rubio had a comment regarding the China visit, and let's listen in to what he had to say.
Productive talks on issues like trade and investing in America, but other issues like Taiwan, still a tense flashpoint. You're watching Fox and Friends First here on a Friday morning after a very busy week. I'm Todd Pyro.
And I'm Carly Shimkus. So much to break down this morning. And we start with Doug Lazater, who is live in Washington with all the details from President Trump's latest movements overnight. Hi, Doug.
Carly and Todd, good morning. The president is on the long flight back to the United States this morning after wrapping up this summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. He's already touting new trade deals and says Xi has offered to help end the war in Iran, but other issues remain unresolved. Let's start with Iran. Before he left China, the president told Sean Hannity that Xi did offer assistance in ending the conflict, saying China agrees that Iran can never possess a nuclear weapon and that the Strait of Hormuz should reopen, just as reports emerged that another ship was attacked and another was seized.
We did discuss Iran. We feel very similar to Iran. We want that to end. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. We want the straits open. We're closing it now. They closed it, then we closed it on top of them. But we want the straits open, and we want them to get it ended, because it's a crazy thing. They're a little bit crazy, and it's no good. Can't have it. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
And the president says he got a commitment that China would not give Iran what he called military equipment.
When you say support, they're not.
Do we believe that?
I don't.
I don't.
Fighting a war with us or anything.
No.
He said he's not going to give military equipment. That's a big statement. He said that today. That's a big statement. He said that strongly. But at the same time, he said, they buy.
Again, folks, we need to remember how President Trump operates. What comes out of his mouth is not necessarily what is swirling around in his head. And this is where that phrase comes from. Everybody's playing checkers while he's playing chess. And I trust his intellect and his ideas a lot more than I trust the Chinese.
A lot of their oil there, and they'd like to keep doing that.
And the president really wanted to focus on new deals with China, including the sales of Boeing aircraft, soybeans, and other American goods. But she said very early on that the number one issue between the U.S. and China was Taiwan, the independently governed island that China lays claim to. His language was pretty pointed in that regard, but there's no indication that U.S. policy toward Taiwan has changed. We will not have to wait too long for a follow-up meeting. The president has invited Xi to visit the U.S. in September. Carly and Todd.
It's a home-and-home series here on the diplomatic front. Doug Lazater, thank you. With that, let us bring in Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow Gordon Chang. And Gordon, we're going to pick up where Doug left off, the major issue of Taiwan. Did anything
Okay, this guy is kind of an anti-Trumper, so I don't want to listen to him. The bottom line, folks, is that, if we haven't learned anything about President Trump to this point, then we're just not paying attention. The president has a method to his madness. Everything he does is calculated. He knows what results he wants. He knows how to ensnare the enemy. To put them in verbal and other kinds of traps. And this is what's amazing to me, that Americans on the left and in the media still haven't figured out, or if they have figured it out, they just don't want to reveal it because
keep it silent
then
about
they
it.
would look stupid. Yeah.
Well, and they do look stupid. And one of the things they don't know is, why does Trump keep saying they're crazy? We can't let them have nukes. So Iran has a religion called the Twelvers. It's a form of Shia Islam. It was Sunni for a long time. These guys basically believe that if they help to end the world, this guy called the Mahdi will come back and good things will happen. Basically, if we nuke Israel, the second coming of their Christ will happen. So that's what he means when he says they're crazy, we can't let them have a nuke. That's actually very specifically what he's talking about. A lot of people don't know that. Fun fact, if anyone's ever played the game Assassin's Creed, those assassins were arch enemies of the Twelvers. So that's a little bit fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting take and perspective on that, because I believe it's like I was hearing the other day somebody talk about, well, how do we bring Iran into the 21st century? And that is the only way.
A lack of Islam would help.
Well, but
please continue.
By choking their economic capability, what the president has done is he has brought Iran, and when I say Iran, I'm talking about the despots that are running the country right now, their guard and their secret police, and their income spout, if you will, has run dry. And the longer these people who are in these units go left unpaid, guess what's going to happen? They're going to start turning on their despot leaders, because I don't care how committed you are, if you're not getting paid, and maybe I'm sure they have families, etc., that rely on them. And if that's not happening, then there's only one option left, and that is they turn the tables on these radicals, either kill or take them into custody, and let the people finally install a government that is of the people. So these are the things that are taking place. By cutting off the Iranians' ability to sell their oil, they're basically losing the battle economically, and they cannot sustain that indefinitely. So this is something to pay attention to. I think we're coming towards the end of this thing. I know people are whining about the cost of gas and other things, but this is a temporary measure that will reverse itself very quickly as soon as we get to that point. And I think we're very close to that point. So
we are very close to that point.
Yeah. Just basically stop whining about it. I know all the Trump haters out there are loving this because they think this is their ticket to the midterms, but they're not paying attention to that game either, because with these new redistricting laws, the Democrats' chances are not looking very good at all, regardless of all these other ancillary issues, because there's no way that the American people are going to handcuff the president for the last 2 years of his presidency and really throw us into further turmoil and decline, because all the Democrats will do if they gain power is basically lock down the government for the last 2 years of President Trump's administration.
Yeah, it's like, would you like $5 gas because of a war, or would you like $5 gas due to incompetence? That's kind of, you know, what you're getting. It's not really that big of a difference where that.
Yep, and this is what we got to pay attention to, folks. But you know, let's temper down, let's tone it down, because I've heard even fellow Republicans who are trying to criticize the president and say, oh, he was the friendless wars and now he's starting wars. And come on, look at the whole picture and stop being an idiot, okay? If that's how you're talking right now, then personally, I believe you were a never Trumper all along and you were masquerading as a Trump supporter.
Or you were one of those people in Athens who voted against Themistocles' navy.
Yep, exactly. So let's tone down the rhetoric. Let's see what comes out of this trip to China. And you know, if you're going to buy this nonsense for some of these commentators that China has put down the gauntlet, yeah, show me the gauntlet.
Let's make it clear. China is never going to agree to anything serious while Trump is there physically, especially because it won't be until June when China has major oil shortages. So wait for the impact of this meeting in about a month, very genuinely.
Yep. And always remember that a lot more dialogue takes place behind closed doors than it does in front of the media. So I have a feeling that President Trump delivered a very strong message to Xi Jinping, and that may be part of the reason that he came out with this little public statement to try to prop himself up and make himself look tough. But he knows he couldn't compete with the American Navy in the China Sea, and even think about invading Taiwan, because it would backfire so severely on them that it wouldn't even be funny. And now, especially since they're really experiencing a severe oil shortage because their two pipelines, Venezuela and Iran, are dried up. So let's temper all of this rhetoric and this consternation that people are out there with, and stop and think for a minute. I still trust President Trump for what he's doing. He hasn't proven me wrong yet. So I'm not going to disparage him or do any damage to his agenda by trying to criticize him. I am not the one in the middle of it, and nor am I going to try to play a super geopolitical expert, you know, on the air when I don't have access to all the inside information. So it boils down to...
That's what you got me for, Hugo.
Yeah, well, it boils down to whether you trust the president or you don't. That's really it. I mean, that's where we are right now.
Well, I'd also push back for a second, because it's not just that; it's also knowledge of geopolitics and history. I mean, Trump is just one person in this whole equation, and geography and trade is significant to this. I mean, whoever be the president, you'd hope they'd make the right strategic decision. And while it does hurt us economically, hurting our enemies, the triad of Iran, China, and Russia, is really critical at this time where we might be approaching World War III. Anything or hurt it is good.
All right, let's switch over to our neighbors across the pond, the British. And the British apparently are to the point of we've had enough. So let's tune into this little clip from Benny Johnson's show that's talking about what's going on over there.
In the history of England, far left-wing socialist Keir Starmer, whose party just lost a historic bloodbath landslide to the MAGA party of the UK, Reform and Restore Britain, called himself a gooner from the well of Parliament. Fascinating move here to finally start telling the truth. Here is that moment.
Tips from her on how to win friends. This is from the person, Mr. Speaker, who previously called us orcs and goons. But, Mr. Speaker, I am a gooner.
Bold strategy. Let's see how it plays out for him. Oh, yes. Okay. Keir Starmer was up the very same day with this video, mewling and complaining about free speech in his country. This is the Unite the Kingdom march video that Keir Starmer made, saying that he's not going to allow far-right agitators to spread hatred and division throughout the nation. So he's going to block visas for some of the organizers and speakers coming into the country. So he's going to let infinity rape gangs enter the country and rape and pillage and parasitically take advantage of all of their welfare state. But he will not allow people who want to keep England Christian and Western to enter the country. Do you understand? Like, at least they're telling us what they believe now. At least they're explaining it in clear language. So let's go ahead and check it. How did this age exactly? Let's show me the hatred and division from the far right agitators who are marching today. Okay, got it. Here are the despicable racists that are marching in England today. Actually,
especially that black guy. He's definitely a
despicable racist. No, they're not racist at all. They are patriots who love their country. They want to see England great again. It's called Great Britain for a reason. Here's your despicable racist Keir Starmer. The media is already lying, saying tens of thousands descend on London. No, there are millions of people marching in London today. Look at this. Look at that. The sea of people all the way to Big Ben. This is before the march even got started. The patriots lining the streets of London can barely be contained on the sidewalk. Here are your despicable racists holding English flags, Union Jacks. More than 70,000 patriots have gathered early in London. This is going to be the biggest rally that anyone has ever seen. It's hard to actually capture it, frankly, because there are so many people marching through the streets. Look at this. Legacy media are squirming as they watch millions of Brits march towards Parliament Square. This is what a revolution looks like. Check out this remarkable report,
which isn't difficult in the middle. And what we've got today, two big marches. So you've got a huge part of central London that's now shut off. So you can find yourself between the middle of the two and nowhere for you and your prison to go to. So it has to be like a quite a definite decision. And we've got to step in at this point, at this time, to take that person out of the crowd. But 11 arrests so far.
All right. So I think it's pretty clear that the Brits have had enough.
And they have every right to as well. They've been literally under grooming gangs for 10 years, 15 years, however many years, unchallenged. I mean, this is long overdue.
Yep. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think, I think people get to a point, where they say, hey, it's now or never. Enough is enough, and we're not going to take it anymore. And this is what you're seeing in Britain, and I predict you're going to see this in other parts of the world as well, because this message is spreading globally. This invasion of Muslims is real. And for those that want to deny that, I'm sorry, you just...
Here's the response to it.
Yeah, you're just a curmudgeon. Look that word up, folks. All right, let's shift over real quick to this news about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We know our favorite illegal immigrant that Trump administration has been trying to deport permanently for some time now.
Today, a federal court ruled that U.S. immigration officials cannot re-detain Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Abrego Garcia has become a focal point of the administration's immigration crackdown after being deported last year from his Maryland home to El Salvador, despite a court order saying he could not be deported to his home country. After returning to the U.S., his legal team has been arguing against the administration's renewed efforts to deport him again, this time to a series of African countries proposed by Homeland Security officials. CBS News immigration and politics correspondent Camila Montoya Galvez joins us now. Camila, what does this mean for Abrego Garcia moving forward?
Well, Lindsay, as you underscored, this federal judge in Maryland has yet again blocked Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE from redetaining Kilmar Abrego Garcia, which obviously is a very significant development because he...
Yeah, but let's keep this in perspective, right, folks? This is one liberal judge in Maryland who will be quickly overturned. Watch.
He has been at the center of the country's immigration debate over the past year. Importantly, the judge in Maryland, Lindsay, found that the administration currently does not have a viable and feasible plan to deport Abrego Garcia from the U.S. To be clear, Abrego Garcia does have a deportation order because the administration argues that he entered the country illegally and is subject to deportation, but he also has legal protection from being sent to his home country of El Salvador. So the administration has been proposing to send him to a number of African countries, including Liberia, like you mentioned, even though his lawyers say that Abrego Garcia would willingly go to Costa Rica, which has offered him refugee status. But the lawyers say the Trump administration is blocking that for the time being.
Do we know why?
Because they argue that that is no longer an option. The administration first offered that option, going to Costa Rica, as part of a potential plea deal in that criminal case over allegations that he smuggled people in the country illegally. So now the judge is saying, because there is no viable option for him to be deported, the government doesn't have sufficient grounds to detain him pending that deportation. So for the time being, he will be free, not only to fight his immigration deportation proceeding, but also, again, the criminal charges he faces in Tennessee over that allegation that he smuggled immigrants across the U.S.-Mexico border illegally.
Okay, and we also have an update in really one of the faces of the Homeland Security Department. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so top DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin, who has been one of the most public and high-profile ardent defenders of the administration's immigration policies, is going to be departing Homeland Security next week. We are told that she...
Okay, that's separate news. But here's the, I can't believe that we are allegedly a country of laws and rules, and yet we have within our own government judges who will stand in the way of enforcing the Constitution and the immigration policies of the country. So the only thing that's left for me to say on that is he might just disappear.
If he was in places like Venezuela, he certainly would. And again, his presence benefits certain people, and those certain people shouldn't be in power in any capacity.
Yep. So anyway, we've had a lot to unravel this morning. We're up against the clock, so we're going to basically close out on a couple of things. We've got for those of you who are voting members in the Colorado GOP, the date is May the 30th in Buena Vista to elect a new chairman. And then the next big event after that is going to be, of course, the primary election on June the 30th, with ballots dropping somewhere in the neighborhood of the middle of the month, maybe the second week. So be on the lookout for that. Watch your candidates, get familiar with who they are, and definitely do your homework and do your due diligence. Vote accordingly, but I think the stakes are very high, and people need to be voting their conscience, if you will. If you're a Central Committee member and you don't go and vote, I don't want to hear anything from you on social media, because you have abdicated your right to speak out.
Exactly. And we wish very much so a happy freedom to Tina Peters, who will be freed the day after the GOP election. We will have more on that. Look out for our shorts that will be coming up. You will not want to miss them.
Yeah, we're going to do a special with Tina Peters after her release. I'm trying to work within some channels and hopefully to get her to come on the podcast. So that would be a great event for us. But And most importantly, we want to make sure that she gets out and is back free again. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in this morning, and have a great weekend, what's left of it, and let's get Colorado red. What do you think?
Absolutely. God bless
All right,
Colorado.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.